Good morning, Creative Tribe members, artists, fellow artists. Oh, excuse me, this morning, we are going to look at the difference between the graphite pencils, because I know when I was first starting, and even sometimes I forget what the different pencils do and why they exist, because there are so many of them, and this is probably not even a complete set. In fact, I'm sure it's not, because I do not have a 2H in here, which is one of the ones that we have on our thing. So this is actually an exercise that I had to do for a college course for drawing, and it came from a video on YouTube, and unfortunately, I do not know, I don't remember what that person's YouTube handle was. I'm sure that this exercise has been done multiple times before. We're not going to do the whole thing. Excuse me, I am still getting over a cold. We're not going to do the whole thing, but I am going to show you what the difference in the pencils are. So we're going to probably do the grade scale and the gradients, okay? And I'll get a little bit into the shading and how we can use different tools to blend. The only thing I don't have at my desk right now is a tissue for blending, so when we get to that, I will probably have to leave you for a second or two. Okay, so we're going to start with the first pencil in my set, which is an F, and you can, there we go. You can see the F right there on my pencil. That's how I know what it is. So F in pencils stands for fine point. So this is a fine point fine point pencil. And since we're gonna kind of do actually, you know, we don't need no stinking boxes. So when we shade with pencils, we don't go straight on like this. That will actually create this don't circle right here. If we this one is a lot of pencil pressure, just pushing really, really hard, going in different directions. This is a no-no too. What we want to do is we want to just take the pencil and take it to the side and take the lead, and actually that's how we shade. Okay, so that's what you're going to see me do. So the fine point is not really going to show up too much. It is very much a fine point. It's not really something that you are going to want to use for shading. It'll do the trick, but you'll see that it's when you're playing with it, it's not an easy shade. But there's what that looks like. Actually, let's give you some bigger boxes here. It's a little bit bigger for you to see, since we're not zoomed in very well. So that's F. Good for like sketching out on your canvas before you get started on a painting, because it'll erase easily. So that's a good use for it. Also, obviously, just if you're just drawing, using that fine point pencil is helpful for lining around your objects. So the next one up that I have is an H, and there's my H. So H stands for hardness. So like that, hardness equals H. All right, and so we're gonna just go through, and this one is also not really good at blending. You'll see that like mine's kind of making lines, and I'll bring my pen or my paper up. Be really a great pencil for doing shading. I forgot to label this. Shading with different techniques like hatching and cross hatching, and we can do a video on those shading techniques at a different time. So there's my H. You can kind of see the difference between my H and my F. Alright, so the next one up is the HB pencil. So we know H stands for hardness, B stands for blackness, which is just super, super weird, but I don't know why they didn't just make it an S for softness, but they didn't, and so here we are. So this guy, I got him pretty sharp, so he's gonna make some lines right out the gate too. Let's see if I can break him a little. All right, and he's not the best shading pencil either. HB is pretty much your almost your standard number 2 pencil is what an HB pencil is. So shading with them is not, it can be done. It's not awesome, but it can be done. So here's HB, and it's gonna have lines, lots of lines. So we'll go through, and then we've got our B pencil. So this is our blackness pencil, and I'm throwing it all over the place. Let's see if I can use this other stuff. All right, so let's get this guy going. So here we get a little bit easier, nice and even, less lines that we're seeing. This is our B. Oops. And then from there it kind of just goes up on the numbers. This is a 2B, and the higher up on the B scale, the easier and the darker they are. And I'm putting very little pressure on my pencil here, which is why my hand is so far back on the pencil. If I want to add more pressure to the pencil, I can move my hand up, and that will definitely give me more pressure and more control, right? So the further back on the pencil we go, the less control we really have over the pencil and where it goes, and also the less pressure we can put on it without breaking the lead. Like I said, I'm getting over a cold, so brain fog is also part of it. Probably thanks to my lovely autoimmune disease, because that's just how it rolls. So now we're on to 3B. So 3B is going to be a little bit easier to work with, a little bit darker. And again, just using the same amount of pressure as I was using before, and all the way back on my pencil. And some of these pencils are longer than others, so a little bit different leverage. The softer pencils I find when I sharpen them, they fall out a lot easier. The wick or the leads, they break easier, and that's also true with my Prismacolor colored pencils. Because they're soft core, they tend to break off when I want them fine pointed, which is probably why they came up with the very thins. So this was a 4B, and this is a good blender. This is a nice middle of the road blend when I want to blend something. The next step up, I usually jump from 2B to 4B and then 4B to 8B, but this is 5B, so we're going to do 5B next. So I'm just giving it that. 5B, and you'll see as I'm writing them in the different graphites, you'll see the softness come through on the black ones, the B's. You'll see how the lead gets softer and softer. so soft. Like this one is breaking on me. So let's try this side. And maybe this one's gonna work. Maybe I'll have to grab another brand. I don't really have a preference in graphite brand. I'm sure some people do. I have several different ones and I can pull those out. This brand that I'm using right now is Prismacolor. It's the same brand that I use for my colored pencils and my markers, because it's just really a great overall brand. Let's see, this one's getting darker. If I could get it to actually fill in this way. There we go. 6B. All right, here's 7B. And 8B. That is also needing sharpened apparently. Oh, it stole my lead. Let's see if we can get it on this side. 8B is a great dark shading, really soft, very easy to use and manipulate to get that dark color shading. And then finally 9B. And I believe that you can get numbers higher than that. I want to say it goes up to 12. Don't quote me on that. I don't have a set that big. I'm not really even sure what it would be necessary for, especially because, you know, you can go from this to charcoal. So there's 9B, and charcoal pretty much makes it black. So, and you have the same things in charcoal. You have the one's graphite. These are charcoal. So you have the same in charcoal. Here's some charcoal pencils. I have a 2B medium, I have a 4B soft, and I have a 6B extra soft, and they do the same thing. So here's a 2B charcoal. So there's 2B, and then here's our 4B. See how much softer that? It just goes on so much smoother. And so much darker. There's 4B, and then there is a 6B, and I don't know how much more the charcoal goes up. I can look and see if I have any more charcoals. I don't use charcoal very often. I just haven't experimented with it much. I used it a lot in my teenage year, or actually no, my 20s. I did a lot in my 20s with charcoal pieces, but not to the point where I needed a whole bunch of different gradients. So I do have some here. That's a 2B, 6B, so it could just be that these are the standards, because that's all I'm seeing is 2B, 4B, and 6B. And then unless I have some Derwents, and they're just, they just say light and dark on them, and that one's pretty chewed up. And then of course you have your vine charcoal, which is totally different deal. And we're not going to get into that. But So this is, for our purposes today, that is what all of these pencils do. So to get started, sorry, my charcoal's gonna smear. So if we were going to shade something, anything, we'll take our F and we'll draw a box or a cube. So this is obviously not completely proportional, and it is definitely not completely in perspective. It's just for shading purposes today. Hopefully you can see that. So if I wanted to, let's say, put the light, my light's coming from this direction. So it's gonna hit here. All this is gonna be light. And then this is gonna be very shaded. This is gonna kind of be shaded, right? And we're gonna have the cast shadow, and we're gonna have all kinds of things, but just for a basic lesson. So if I wanted to get started shading this particular cube, I'm gonna start with a 2B. So we're gonna start with the lightest pencil that we need. And I'm just gonna start, because I know this one's gonna be the darkest, probably the darkest point on the whole box, right? Because the light's not hitting it at all. So I'm gonna start over here with filling it in. And if I go outside the box, I have erasers for that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get it all just nicely filled in. So that's a layer or two of 2B. So I don't have to really change pencils. I can keep going. So if that's not going to be the darkest that I want, I can keep going with that. But let's go ahead and match whatever I need to match on this other, these other spaces. So I know that the light's going to hit the beginning of this box, right? But maybe not all of it. Maybe that's just going to be really light over here, but there's going to be a bit of shade over here. Okay. And then I know that the darkest parts of this box are going to be this shadow right here. So I want to fill this and that in, because I know those are going to be dark. And then I know up here is going to be dark. Okay, so now we've kind of got to start. So I don't really need to change this 2B. I can go back over what I did in this box and make it darker just by layering it. And that will make it a little bit darker than everything else that I've already done. But I can see that I'm probably still going to need it to be really a lot darker. So then I can switch. I normally switch just to jump to the 4B, because I know that that's a great pencil to get me what I need. But you should really experiment. So I'm going to go through and add my 4B here. Make it a little bit darker. Excuse me. Okay, there's that. And I know that this is probably as shaded as I want that. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit it with my 4B. Because I know it's got to be darker than that, right? Because the light's on this one, the light's not really getting to this one so much, so we'll do that. And then you can always jump ahead, so I know that this is that really dark spot right underneath. So it's always going to be that, and then this is probably going to be darker even still, because right, we matched the 4B up there. that. Alright, so that's a nice little blend. And then I know that we have a cast shadow, which is the shadow that is casting off of the box because the light is hitting it. So we know that that's going to be over here somewhere. Alright, we're going to have this shadow going on. And the shadow is going to be dependent upon, you know, how much light is hitting the box, where it's hitting the box, how tall the box is. So just for today's purposes, we're just going to have this little itty bitty cast shadow, which again, probably not proportionate, not dealing in proportions today, just dealing in what the different pencils do. So all right, so that being said, I talked to you in the beginning about different shading and blending things. So I'm gonna just take the, we could use the 2B that I had. Take the 2B, and I'm just gonna draw a circle, which, you know, that's what it is. Can you see my circle? Pretty much. And then I'll draw another one. Oops. They're not gonna be perfect by any means. All right, so there's my circles. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the different blending with the Q-tip, a blending stump, and tissue. So to get that started, I'm just gonna I'm gonna make some dark spots over here, and then kind of get a little bit lighter on my circle. Okay, and I'm gonna do that for everybody, even though this circle is very wonky. And this circle is pretty wonky too, but that's okay. The important part is it's got dark stuff and it's got some lighter stuff. Okay, so I've been taught that you always go from the lightest to the darkest. I don't always do that. There are situations where I go from darkest to lightest because I want to take the dark and I want to spread it into the lighter part. But for today's purposes, we're going to do what I was formally taught, which means that we're going to start in the light part. So this is a Q-tip, and I'm just going to make little circles. And as I'm going through and hitting the different colors or the different gradients, it's making them blend together. So that is what it looks like to do it with a Q-tip. Nice and smooth. Lots of people like Q-tips better. I'm gonna need a different blending stump. This is for colored pencil. All right, well, let me find you. There we go. So here's one. So this is a blending stump, or a tortillon. Yeah, I suck at saying those things. So again, we're gonna start in the white part, and we're gonna make little circles. And it's kind of angled, so you just kind of work it like a pencil. Same thing as far as like the pressure. So the further back on the blending stem you are, the less pressure. That is what a blending stump does. You can see it's really smooth still, but there's a lot more, there's not as much control as with the Q-tip. The Q-tip kind of stayed in this one area, and the tortillon kind of just comes all over the place. So let me go grab a tissue real quick. All right, so tissue, the same way. We're gonna just start in the white part, and I'm gonna kind of, you can either do like, you can put your finger in it, wrap your finger up in it, or you can kind of make a smudge point to it. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take my smudge area, and I'm just gonna do the circles again. Through the whole thing. And it does a really good job. It's very smooth, kind of like the Q-tip. It keeps the shape that you want it, the gradient that you want it. It's not as all over the place like the tortilla or the blending stump. But I couldn't really see much when I was doing that, so it's kind of like a leap of faith. And then, you know, because it's gonna drive me crazy that these things are so messy, I'm gonna go and clean them up with one of my little eraser deals. So they look nice. Alright, so, whoops. So we said this was the Q-tip. This is the blending stump. And this is the tissue. Okay. So I hope that gets you started on your graphite pencil journey. And hopefully I'll see you another time for another video. In the meantime, you can check out our online or in-person classes at www.artfultransformations.art. And I can't wait to create with you. Have a great day.